All right, I guess I finally got this hooked up. Something weird has been going on with my phone, so I wasn't able to log in at the correct time. And all right, so got a couple of people joining in. Thank you for waiting on me. Sorry about that. I had to do all of this on my iPad, so it's a little bit different, just logging in. So I will wait a little bit longer, not too long, for more people to join. But thank you for taking time out on your Friday night to listen to my artist talk and to my studio visit. So hopefully I won't have any trouble with connection, because now I'm saying I have poor connection. Anyway, I hope y'all are doing well. Happy Friday, happy Valentine's Day, happy President's Day, happy Chinese New Year, all that good stuff. I'll wait just a little bit longer, not too long. Okay. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and get started for my connection is totally gone. I don't know why all of a sudden my connection is poor, but my name is Janelle Washington. I am a paper cut and silhouette artist in Alexandria, Virginia. I am self-taught. I've been doing paper cutting for about, I think 8 years. And I really love paper. I really love working with paper. When I pause, it's because my connection is paused. So anyway, my paper cuts revolve around Black themes, Black culture, Black history, Black beauty. My foundation for a lot of my artwork is the Sankofa symbol, which means to go back and get it. So basically go back into your past, get the wisdom and knowledge from your past and bring it to the future and use it for your future, successful future. So a lot of my paper cuts, or just my whole theme in the artwork that I do, is based on Sankofa. So yeah, so sorry, no, you didn't miss it. I thank you for coming. Sorry, just had some technical difficulties. Isn't that life? So anyway, yeah. My connection is horrible. This is the first time this ever happened. So anyway, I will get started on my studio to kind of go around and show you what my studio looks like. My studio is basically a second bedroom that I have converted into my art room. So I'm going to flip the camera. So this is the desk that I use. It goes up and down. It goes up and down, so it's very helpful for me in my artwork. I have a bulletin board with all of my information, different events that I am currently in and looking to be a part of. Some inspiration on the side. This is for a solo project that I will be, solo show that I'm in. So all of my inspiration and stuff on the side. I am also last year I started illustrating a book, and so this is the manuscript and some of my drawings for that. So this is closet, my door. You can see, like I said, this is the second bedroom, so I have a bed in here. I have some art from other artists that I admire. This dress form is a project that I was working on last year. The paper on it was some art that I was working on last year. That was supposed to be a fashion show in New Orleans, but it got canceled, of course. So all of that is from my paper scraps. I used it and recycled it and made it into new paper and made a bodice out of it. So I'm really impressed with myself because it's pleated and, come on, pinned together and everything. So we didn't have the fashion show, but I kept it. Storage. I got this from Ikouii. That's a really good thing to kind of hold all of my flat paper cuts when they're not framed. More artwork from another artist. And this is some of my artwork. Sorry about the poor connection. All right. So that is my studio space. It's not very large, but it works. It's my own room, so that's good. So yeah, so right now, the different projects that I'm working on now, like I said, I have a solo show that will be in April 6th in Newport News, Virginia, at a community center called Down in Gross. And basically, that solo show is based on a poem written by Gwendolyn Brooks. Has anyone heard of Gwendolyn Brooks? She has a poem called The Second Sermon on the Warp Land. And basically it's a poem about the difficulties that Black people go through in life and how you still gotta persevere and push through. And you just think about like a seed that's put down into the earth, you know, all the different things that this seed has got to fight through to get out of the earth and to grow and to bloom. So the poem is basically about that. So I had created some artwork last year, well actually 2019, for a gallery called the 311 Gallery, and it was in Charlotte, Raleigh, North Carolina. I lived in Charlotte for a year. And it was for a different exhibit, and I had really been thinking about children's faces and blooming, and this was before I found the poem. And I created this artwork off of, it was a photographer in DC that I follow, and he had these beautiful pictures of his niece. And so I asked him if I could borrow the photographs that he had and to create a paper cut with it. So this is all paper, and then this is a flower crown that I created that is kind of sitting up off of her head. And from that, I wanted to expound on my thought process, I guess, with this paper. I wanted to make it into a whole new series. So this was another one. So I wanted to make it into a series. So the name of the poem is The Second Sermon on the Warp Land by Gwendolyn Brooks. So when I was in Charlotte, I went to a puppet shadow show. I can't remember. It was like a shadow puppet show. It was really nice, and it was based on the life of Gwendolyn Brooks. I had heard of her, but I hadn't really known that much about her poetry. And so I started reading some of her poetry, and I came across that. And I was like, you know what, that really ties in to this artwork that I created. And so I wanted to create, like I said, an entire series from that. And I was able to apply for a solo show and to kind of put that together. So that's what I'm working on now. I will show you some of the things that I have done already. So all of this is unfinished right now, but this is, in the poem, it talks about kind of the older generation kind of reaching forward. Interpretation of older generation passing forward. These are periwinkle flowers to younger generation. As you can see, the leaves are at the bottom. So this wisdom that's being transferred from the older generation to the younger generation is going to help them to grow. I had done some research on periwinkles and found that they grow where unmarked, enslaved, where they have buried the enslaved people. These periwinkles would grow in these unmarked graves. And so that was kind of a way to kind of tie that information in. This is another flower crown that I did, just thinking about celebrating life. That's a part of the poem. So every paper cut that I've created is kind of an interpretation of her poem. This one is talking about time. And so this one I will put some colors behind the flowers and fill them in like I did with these. So this is the front, and then the back, you can see everything is kind of glued down. So this is an infill. So I'll be doing that for these flowers here. So this is another piece. And then these are some of the other flower crowns that I will be putting together and framing. So right now they're all separate pieces, because they're going to be lifted up off of the paper cut. So these will kind of sit up off of her. So this one is just, yeah, sunflowers. This is actually a picture of my husband's cousin. She's a model in New York, and she takes these beautiful pictures, and she had this gorgeous picture of her with these sunflowers in her hair. And so I wanted to use her, you know, as inspiration for part of the solo show. Let's see. So this is another one, and don't mind the bottom. This is all going to be cut off. I just have this here to kind of keep it intact for right now. This one, he has a laurel crown of leaves. And this is, it's another lady that I follow on Instagram. Her son has autism. And he had this beautiful picture of him celebrating, I forgot exactly what it is, but I asked her if I could use that picture, and she let me. So she was saying that he really, and so this one will have bees incorporated with it. So I really like, this is the first time I painted in the gold, because it was hard to find like gold paper that I was looking for, so I painted that in. And so this is another one. Like I said, disregard the bottom. That's just to hold everything in place. This one, this was another person that I follow on Instagram. Her daughter takes these beautiful pictures, and I was inspired by her hair, and so I decided to give her a flower crown. And this is like cotton bales. Well, not cotton bales, cotton. I use the cotton, and then the cotton actually has flowers to it, so I incorporated that. So that's the back. And then I gave her a ladybug, because ladybugs are good insects. And this one is another person that I follow. I try to use actual people, and then, you know, try to get their permission to use their photos. This young lady is from Virginia, and so I incorporated dogwood flowers to hers, and then the state bird is a cardinal. So all of this will kind of sit up off of her. And then, of course, like I said, this will get cut off when it's all done. And then the last portrait, I was actually a pre-K paraprofessional teacher's assistant. And so right now, this is a picture of one of my students with permission from his mom to use his picture. So these are cactus, and his favorite insect is a praying mantis. So these are my young people and children blooming in the whirlwind, definitely kind of dealing with the issues that we have here in America, or just in life in general, through and, you know, overcoming these obstacles that can come in life. So that's basically what I want to do, so like represent joy in the midst of the hardships that we all go through. So those are just some of the pieces, and they will be framed like this, kind of cut off, because I really want the focus to be on the eyes and the flowers, and just really looking at, really kind of connecting with them there. Let's see what else. I don't know. Does anyone have any questions or anything? Once again, thank you again for taking some of your time out in the night to listen to me talk. Let's see what else. Also, I entered into an art exhibit. Oh, how did I get into this? That is a good question, and I meant to say that. So actually, I went to school. I graduated from VCU with a Bachelor of Arts and a concentration in fashion design. And I was a fashion designer for 12 years, doing children's wear, boys and girls clothing. So I was working at Kohl's as a designer for them. And the creative director there, she wanted the team to kind of have like a show and tell day. We bring outside work in and kind of show our coworkers things that we've done outside of fashion. So I was really interested in origami and kirigami. I had never really heard of paper cutting that much. I knew about, you know, cutting snowflakes, but never to the extreme that I've just showed you. So after doing some research, I saw a couple of paper cutters. I can't remember the young lady's name that I really was kind of inspired by, but I took that and I decided I would try my hand at paper cutting, show that to my coworkers. So I made some little kirigami animals, which is basically folding and cutting to make an object. So I made some little animals out of paper, and then I did a little paper cut. I don't remember what it was, but it was horrible. But it was my first time, and everybody at work was extremely impressed. And I was like, you know, this is something that I think I can do. So I just started making, well, actually, you know, I started copying from magazines. Like I would draw things that I would see and then cut it out just to get practice. And then once I really kind of got a good understanding of what I would do, what I was doing, I started to draw my own designs and just really trying to figure out what my voice is and what it is I wanted to do with paper. So like most artists, you start making stuff for your family members and you start giving away free stuff, you know. So I started doing that. I started making paper cut wedding paper cuts for people that were getting married, like using their initials and different symbols that kind of that they connect to. And so my family and my friends really liked that, and I got encouraged to start an Etsy store, which I did. And then I just started, you know, really growing and really understanding it and meeting more people that were in paper cutting. And I'm a part of the Guild of American Paper Cutters, and that was probably one of the first organizations I became connected to that really helped me kind of understand paper cutting and all the different forms of paper art. There are so many forms out there. It's amazing. So that's I guess the long version of how I got into paper cutting. How old was I? Let's see. It's in my 20s, I think. It's a long time ago. Like I've been out of college, I think, what, 18 years. So I think I was in my 20s, early 30s, somewhere in there. What kind of paper do I use? Oh, I use a lot of different papers. But the weight is the most important part. So I usually stay with 60 pound paper. If your paper is too thick, it takes too long to cut through, and then your wrist starts to hurt, your fingers start to hurt, your blades get really dull. So I like a kind of in between, kind of heavy, but not too heavy and not too light. So I use this black paper. It's called Artigon paper, and then I'll use watercolor paper sometimes, and just regular paper that you can buy at Michael's. That's the good thing about this medium, is that you can kind of use whatever. And I use tissue paper for my infills because I like that you can kind of see through it, and it kind of gives it this kind of delicate feel to it. How long does it take to create one piece? Oh, well, it depends. I can get very detailed. I try to make things simple, and I can't always do that. I always end up adding more detail to it. So it will take, I don't know, 3 to 4 hours. I've had one piece, actually it's at the framers now. It's 39 by 39. That's the largest piece. That took me several months, but I was also working a full-time job. So I was coming home and maybe working on it like, 1 or 2 hours throughout. So it just really depends on how intricate and how big the piece is usually determines how long it takes. But it takes several hours. I try not to really, I used to try to keep up with that because people ask, but it's so hard. Once you kind of get going, you just keep going, and you just kind of forget how long or when you started or anything like that. So let's see, is there any other questions? How old are you? How do you get into this? So yeah, so that's this is my knife that I use. Is a basic craft knife with the exacto knife blade. I think I got this in college. When you're an art student, you kind of acquire a whole lot of art supplies. So I've got like 20 of these, but this is the one, for whatever reason, that's the most comfortable for me right now. So I just kind of stick with it. I guess some of the materials I use this glue to help with my infills. It has a good little applicator tip, so it makes it easy to apply the glue without it going all over the place. It, you know, comes out easy. So this is, and it holds really good. And then I use glue dots a lot to hold my paper cuts in place. I don't know if you can see that, but the little dots, they're usually temporary, but they're pretty sticky, and I'll use them to hold my paper cuts in place also. I don't really like to glue my paper cuts down on paper. It's something about that whole permanent thing that I don't like. In case I change my mind and I want a different background, I don't want it glued down. So I'll use, you know, tape like this, or this is actually good too. It's a adhesive, removable adhesive. It comes out in strips, so I'll use that also. And then even this, sometimes this two-way glue, I'll use that for my infills. So that has like a soft applicator to it. Any other? Sorry about that. My connection, I still don't know what's going on with that, but anyway. I'll talk about some of the other things that I did, and then we'll wrap up and call it a night. So I recently did some artwork for O Magazine, and I did a silhouette for, they wanted a silhouette of Breonna Taylor. They did an article based on her life, those that have been killed unjustly by the police. So this silhouette is the silhouette that I created for them, and they used that in their September issue of last year. And this is my own kind of memorial to her that I created. So it's just basic cardstock paper with tissue paper, and then I painted over her name. This, I know it looks crazy because it's really flimsy, but this is a self-portrait that I did of myself holding the American flag, thinking about where we are now as a nation and kind of like a grieving mother. So the actual paper cut is framed. Kind of keeping that a secret right now, but this is my initial design for it. And then this, so I created my own toile design. It's like a wallpaper from colonial days, and incorporated some of the silhouettes of those that have died unjustly, like Trayvon Martin, Ahmaud Arbery. You can see a person running there, Breonna Taylor, and Elijah McClain, the young man that played the violin. Tay Jefferson, the young lady that was killed in her home while she was playing video games with her nephew. So this is kind of my interpretation. They used toile pattern basically to show in colonial days people of power, people of high importance, kind of doing leisure activities. So I wanted to focus on the lives of these people before they died. So, you know, them participating in activities that brought them pleasure. So that goes with the self-portrait. So yeah, so that is something that I finished up and I submitted for an exhibit. So I'm waiting to see if I got in. So fingers crossed, I hope I did. But that was the last piece that I worked on. Yeah, so I have some artwork that right now is with the RVA, which is Richmond, Virginia, Black Lives Matter 2020 exhibit. It's an online exhibit. I have two pieces there called Bessa Saka and Dem Dem, and they are basically portraying Black women in positions of power as playing cards. I also have 3 pieces of artwork right now that are at the University of North Carolina at Pembroke. They are doing an exhibit based on hope throughout the pandemic. And so last year I created some artwork, I think like everyone, kind of with the pandemic theme. So different parts of, you know, how the different emotions that we went through the pandemic. So the first one, I don't have the pieces here, but there's two women looking at each other and it says take care in the middle. And just thinking about how after we figured out what the coronavirus is, and then it was like really to take care of yourself, take care of your loved ones. And then later on in the year, I made another piece called Miss You. Just thinking about how we miss our interaction with other people, and just those emotions that come from that. And then I did a third piece. I actually made it into jewelry, which shows a swallow, and then it's on a black chain, and it says goodbye. I read an article, and they were talking about people who had died from COVID. Their loved ones weren't really able to say goodbye. Their loved ones weren't able to say goodbye, and that broke my heart. And so I created that piece, kind of just thinking about that. So I do have another idea where it talks about healing. So that's something that I'm going to be working on probably next month. I have artwork there, so you can also just look it up online at RVA BLM 2021, and I think that's it. So if anyone have any more questions, can we watch this video later? I think so. I think this would go on the Ikouii site. I believe so. So I'm going to say yes, but please don't hold me to it. And once again, I appreciate, once again, you waiting on me and listening to me ramble. I'm bad at this. And my poor connection, whatever that is. And I hope you all have a good night. Oh, also you can, you can go to www.washingtoncuts, Washington with the word CUTS.com for my website. You can follow me on Instagram at Washington Cuts, and you can really see more of my artwork. So I'm on those two. And then I have the Etsy shop at Washington Cuts. Everything is Washington Cuts. That's kind of my, I guess, brand name. So my last name is Washington, and I cut paper. So I thought that was just kind of a cool way to put those two together. So yeah, so WashingtonCuts.com, Etsy Washington Cuts, and Instagram Washington Cuts. So thank you. I hope I didn't talk too fast. I really appreciate it and coming. So thank you and have a good night.